Hello guys, welcome to a new video. This one is paper 1-1 of A-level math for May and June 2019. So with that being said, let's move on to question number 1. So here, the term independent of x in this expansion is given by this number. So first thing first, what does it mean to be independent of x? So basically the term where we don't have x, so x power 0, the term, so here, this value here is equal to 540. So we have to use this information to find the value of k. So step by step, so how can we proceed? So first we have to assume, how can we expand this? So the way we expand this is by first taking 6, the power combination, and then we take the value here, which is 2x, and then the value here, which is 6 over x. Now, we have to choose a number here, let's say n. This also will be n, and this will be 6 minus n. So, we have a choice, so n can be the value of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Because here we have 6, we start from 0 till 6. Now, we have to choose n such that when you simplify this term, there will be x power 0, which means there will be no x in that term. So by trying or by observing, you can clearly see that you will have to choose the value of n to be the value of 3. So if you see, let's try, you will have 6, choose 3, 2x, that will be 6 minus 3 will be 3. And 6 over x, that will be 3. Now we can simplify. What is 6 choose 3? Let's check. That will be 20. 2 power 3 will be 8. That will be x power 3. Now 6 power 3 will be what? 2, 1. Oh, it is not 6. So I made a mistake here. It is k. So k over x, not 6. That will be k over x. Okay, so very simple fix. Now I will have k power 3 over x power 3. Now if you observe this and this, they will cancel out. So you will have what? You will have 160 k power 3. Now this is a term independent of x. As you can see, because there's no x to this term. Okay, so this is the one that we are trying to find. Now we have to use this to find the value of k. Why? Because according to the question, we are told that this term is equal to 540. So we just have to equate that to 540, right? That will be 540. Now, let's solve for the value of k. K squared, k cubed will be 540 divided by 160. That will be 3375, and k will be cubic root of that. That will be 1.5. Okay, so question part 1, the value of k has to be 1.5. Now I'm going on to part 2. So for this value of k, we have to find the coefficient of x squared in the expansion. Now first thing first, you have to understand, what are you trying to find? So we are trying to find the coefficient of x squared. Now, for example, let's say I write ax squared. What is the coefficient of x squared? It is the value in front of x squared, which is this. So you are trying to find this value in that expansion. So right now we have 2x plus k is 1.5, over x power 6. Now in this expansion, we are trying to find the coefficient of x squared. So we only care about the term in x squared. So same concept again. We have to expand. Let's say, how are you going to expand this? You will have 6, choose something. You will have 2x. Here you will have 1.5 over x. Now, we have to choose a number here. This will be the same as this one according to the formula, and this will be 6 minus n. Now n can be the value of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 because of the power of 6. Now, which number can we put here so that we have a term in x squared? So by trial and error, we can see and check which one is the good choice. So I can safely see that if I put n equal to 2, we will have the answer. So usually I don't know, so I try, but I think I've done this kind of questions many times. That's why I can just observe directly. Because if you look, if I have n equal to 2, what's going to happen? This will be 2 here, and this will be 2x. 6 minus 2 is 4. That will be 1.5 over x. This is 2. Now, if you want to simplify, let's see what happens. 6 choose 2. That will be 15. 2 power 4 is 16. That will be x power 4. Then we have 1.5 squared, 2.25 over x squared. Now you can simplify, this will go away. That will be 2. And finally, you will have 2.25 times 15 times 16. That will be 540. X squared as the term in x squared. Now, this is not the answer because we are trying to find the coefficient of x squared, which is this one. So 540 is your answer for part 2 of question number 1. So the main idea here is that we have to know exactly what we are trying to find and then proceed step by step. As you can see here, we have to understand how are we going to expand this normally. So basically every term looks like this, where the value of n changes from 0 to 6 depending on the power right here. And then we only care about this term, so we have to see which one fits in this expansion to give you something in this term. So this will be your answer for part 2 of question number 1. Now let's move on to question number 2. The line 4y equal to x plus c, where c is a constant. So here we have a straight line given to you. Good. It is a tangent, okay, to the curve this at the point P on the curve. Okay, so right now let's do something. So what we can do here, we can just try to make a fake drawing. So what do I mean by fake is, let's pretend we know the shape of this curve. For example, it's a curve. Let's say it has a shape like this. Who knows, right? And then we know that this line, it is a tangent. Tangent means it touches the curve at exactly 1 point. That's the idea of tangent. So this is 4y equal to x plus c. And then this is y equal to x plus 3. So basically that's how it will look like in terms of drawing. Now let's see what are we trying to find. So it touches the curve at the point P on the curve. Okay. Now we have to find the value of c. So how can you find the value of c? So first thing first, we have to use that information that it is a tangent to the curve. Now you know that by being a tangent, what does it mean? It means that the line and the curve meets at only 1 point. Now I'm sure you have heard this many times in add math. So when it means at 1 point, what does it mean? It means that we're trying to find the b squared minus 4ac has to equal to 0, right? So that's the main formula we are trying to use. And now again, as you can see, where the meet intersect, we are solving the equation simultaneously. So let's do that. So here we have x, so let's make x become subject. That will be 4y minus c. Equation number 1. Replace back here, you will have y squared 4y minus c plus the value of 3. Now send everything to one side. That will be y squared minus 4y plus c minus 3 equal to 0. Now simplify. This is the value of 1, this is minus 4, and this is the value of c minus 3. This is a, b, and c. Now replace in your main formula right there, which is this one. B squared is what? It is minus 4 square. So this is too bright. Then we have minus 4 times a times c. Has to be 0. That will be 16 minus 4c c minus 3 equal to 0. Now we have to basically make c become the subject of the formula to find the value of c. So step by step, we can send this here. You will have what? Minus 4c minus 3 is equal to minus 16. Divide by minus 4 everywhere, you will have what? C minus 3 is equal to 4. C will be the value of 7. Okay, so this is part 1, where the value of C is 7. Now we know the line has equation 4y equal to x plus 7. That is the equation of the line that we know now. Now for part 2, we have to find the coordinates of P. Basically, we have to find, this is the point P, the value of y and x. So we have to find these 2 points for P. Now again, let's go back to the main question to see where is P. So the P is what? It is the line is a tangent at the point P. So this is the point P, where the meet is the point P. So we have to find that point P. Okay, so let's do that. So pretty easy. We know that the curve, so we reached this equation here when we're trying to solve simultaneously. So we had what? We had the value of y squared minus 4y plus 4, right, equal to 0. So this is the step we have reached when we were trying to solve them simultaneously. So what do I mean by solving simultaneously? So whenever a curve or line or line or whatever meets, we are trying to solve the 2 equations simultaneously. Now we have this equation. Let's see what can we do. So by factorizing, that will be y times y. 4 is 2 times 2. To get minus 4, we have to have minus 2 minus 2. So y will be the value of 2. Let's find the corresponding value of x by replacing back in your equation of line. Why not? You will have x equal to 4y minus 7. So 4y, 4 times 2, minus 7. That will be 8 minus 7. That will be 1. Now, this is your point P, which is 1, 2. Okay, and that is your question number 2. Okay, so now let's move on to question number 3. A sector of a circle of radius r, okay, has an area of A, good to know. Express the perimeter of the sector in terms of R and A. Now, first thing first, we have to know what is a sector of a circle. It is a piece of a circle. So basically, usually, let's say we can take this shape for now as an illustration to what we are trying to find. So this is called a sector of a circle. Now, this is obviously the center of the circle. This is the radius. This is the radius, and this is the arc of the circle. Now here we have an angle. Let's name the angle of theta in terms of radians. Now what do we know about this? We know that the radius is r and it has an area of A. So how do you find the area of a sector? So you have to know this. The formula for that is half r squared theta. The area is half r squared theta. Okay, now our goal right now is to find the perimeter. So how can you find this? By definition, the perimeter is what? It is a distance around the sector. So we have this, this, and this. So it is r and plus the length of arc. This is simple. That will be 2r and plus the length of arc that we have to find. Now again, we have a formula for this as well. Arc length is given by what? By r times theta. Now what is the value of theta? Because if you were to replace this back here, you will have what? You will have 2r plus r theta. This is your answer for the question. However, as you can see, it is asking you for the value of P in terms of r and a. So here we have theta. So we have to find a way to change that to a or o in r, because we don't need the value of theta. So if you observe, we have this right here we can use. So right now we have a equal to half r squared theta. So we have to make theta become the subject of formula. So we can cross multiply first. You will have 2a equal to r squared theta. So finally, theta will be 2a over all square. Now let's put this back here. You will have 2r plus r, theta is 2a over r square. Now this will cancel out, and as you can see, this will be 2r plus 2a over the value of r. And this is your answer in terms of r and a, and there's no theta to be seen because we have to give the answer according to the question. That is your question number 3. Now let's move on to the question number 4. The diagram shows a trapezium, as you can see, trapezium with these two sides in the same direction, and this is the perpendicular length between the two sides. So we have ABC, and the points A, B, and C are given to you here, A, B, and C, respectively. Now the line BC and AD are in the same direction, as you can see. This is obvious on the diagram. Now, the angle ABC is 90. This is 90. But also something we have to realize that this is also 90, right? That makes sense, right? So that is okay. And then CD is in the same direction to the x-axis. So what does that mean? CD is in the same direction as this, which means that CD is a horizontal line. So that's something we can derive from that information. Now, one thing we can really think about this is what? Is, for example, if this is horizontal, we know that the points C and D are going to be on the same level. So what do I mean? Here, for example, the point C is what? It is H. It is here, right? H. And 3H. 3H will be somewhere over here. But since it is on the same level, we know that the point of D will be, so this we don't know, but it have to be also 3H because it is on the same level. So that's something we can derive from that information. Anyways, now for part 1, we have to find by calculation the value of H. Now how can you find the value of H? We have to simply use the given information. Now, as you can see, the lines BC and AD are in the same direction. So how can you use this? Let's see. Well, that is one way of doing that for sure. But I can see there's an easier way of doing that as well, of just using the angle right here. Right? Angle ABC is 90, which means the dot product of these two have to give you the value of -1, or simply we can just think about gradient. As you guys know, whenever, let's call this one the gradient M2 and this one gradient M1. Now you know whenever we have tangent and perpendicular bisector, the idea is that if you take the gradient of M1, for example, this line, and multiply the gradient of M2, you're supposed to get -1. That is the main equation we can use because we know this is 90 degrees. So exactly, we can just use that very simply to find the value of H. Now we know that M1 is the line BC. So let's find the gradient of BC first thing first. So the point B is given by what? By 0, 2. The point C is given by H, 3H. So how would you find the gradient? You will do, that will be y2 minus y1, so 3H minus 2 over H minus 0. Okay, that's part 1. Now for part 2, we can find the gradient of the other line, which is BA. So B is the point 02 and A is the point 40. So gradient of 2 will be 0 minus 2 over 4 minus 0. That will be the value of minus 2 over 4, and that should give you minus half. Now let's put these values back in the main equation. So M1 is this one, 3H minus 2 over H multiplied by M2, which is minus half. It is supposed to give you -1. Now what can we do is we can just send this over here. For example, we can first try to cross multiply. Why not? You will have what? You will have 3h minus 2. This is minus 1 here, so let's cancel out the minus sign on both sides. Why not? Then you will have equal to 2h. Simplify. Send this over here. You will have 3h minus 2h has to be the value of 2. H has to be the value of 2. As you can see here, we have found the value of h, which is the value of 2. So the easiest way to do that was using this concept. So basically, let me re-explain. Let's say we have a line right here, and then we have another line that goes in this direction. Now, this is the line L, this is the line P, for example. Now, given that line L and line P, they are perpendicular to each other. Now, since we know that, we can say the gradient of line L multiplied by the gradient of line P have to give you minus 1. So that's the main concept that we have used here to find the value of h. And as you can see here, because we know that these two lines are perpendicular to each other, we can use this concept to find the answer of h. So as you can see, the point C have to be what? H is 2, that will be 2, 6. And the point D has to be what? This will be x, we don't know, and this has to be 6. So now we know the point D and the point C. Kind of. But the value of h is 2. Now for part 2, we have to find the value of D, the coordinates of D. So D right now we know it is x, and here we have 6. Now whenever you see hence, means we have to use the previous answers to help us to find that. But the best way, of course, we have to look at the diagram. So what do we realize from this? So one thing we can do here is that we can use the same thing again if you want to, which means since, now we can use a different thing if you want. Since AD and BC, so we can see that BC is parallel with AD, it means that the gradient of BC is equal to the gradient of AD. So we can use this next concept to find your answer. So let me write this down. Because we know that the gradient of BC was found in part 1 to be, let me check. So BC was the value of M1. M1 was found to be 2. That was the gradient of BC. Now we know that because BC is same direction or parallel to AD, we conclude that the gradient of AD is also 2. Now, since we know that, we can find the value of x pretty easily. The point A is given to you by what? By the value of 4, 0. Now, how do you find gradient? Pretty easy, using your formula again, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That will give you value of 2. Now we have to solve for this value of x. So first thing first, cross multiply, you will have minus 6. That will be 8 minus 2x. So next over here, you will have 2x. And that will give you the value of 8 plus 6. That will be 14. X will be 14 divided by 2. And that should be 7 as your answer. Now, the point D is the one that we are trying to find. So D will be 7, 6, not 8. 7, 6 as the point D. Right here. Okay? And that will be your question number 4. Okay, let's move on to question number 5. The function f is defined by f of x equal to this. Now, x can take any value in the real world. That's the first information. Now, part 1, express this f of x in the form of this, where a and b are constant. So we have to complete the squares for our expression of f of x. Now, first thing first, as you can see, the coefficient of x squared is minus 2. So we can't actually do this directly without changing that first to make it become 1. So how can I do this? So let me rewrite this again. For example, I can rewrite the first two terms together. Then I can leave some space, write down the other term. Now, because I only care about these two for now, I can factorize the minus 2 outside. You will have x squared and then minus 6x. Yeah, if that makes sense, because if you were to expand this, you're supposed to get the same value. So by taking minus 2 outside, you will have this for now. Now, we can simply just look at the terms inside. Because this is 1 now, we can proceed to the next step. So this is very important in this process. So let's see, what do we do? Here we have x squared. This is minus 6x. Now we have to add something. Now we have to add the value here in front of x. That will be 6. We don't take the minus into account, we just care about the value. Take 6 divided by 2 square. Okay, that will be this. And then we have to, here we have minus 3. But of course, when you add something, you also have to minus the same value because you don't want to change your main equation. Okay, you will have this. But now, since this value was inside of the bracket of minus 2, we also have to give it the value of minus 2. You will have this, so that will be minus 2, right? If that makes sense. Now simplify. This will be minus 2. That will be x squared minus 6x. That will be 3 squared minus 3 plus 2. That will be 3 squared. Now simplified, you will have what? Minus 2. Now we can change this now. X here, x squared become x. Here we have minus become minus, so you move like this. And here inside we have 3, that will become 3. And here we have square, become square. Now this will become minus 3 plus 2 times 9. That will become minus 2x minus 3 square. Simplify, so minus 3 plus 18, that will be 15. Okay, so that will be your value, as we can see here, for the value of a and b given right here. So the idea is that we know now the complete square form of f of x is given by minus 2 x minus 3 square plus 15. That's the answer for part 1 of the equation. Now for part 2, we have to state the greatest value of f of x. Now, whenever you see state, or if it is 1 mark, it should be pretty easy. And we have to use the previous answer. Now we have to know that whenever we complete the squares, the value at the end is the maximum or the minimum value. Now, because we know f of x was equal to minus 2x squared plus 12x minus 3, the value here was negative. The shape will be somewhat like this, right? It will be a maximum curve. So this maximum value here, the value which is the y value, has to be the value at the end, which is 15. So that's the idea. It should be pretty easy, and we have to use the previous answer. As we can see, this value at the end will be your stationary value. Here it is a maximum value, that will be 15. Here we're trying to find the greatest value. It has to be 15 for your answer. Okay, that is part 2 of the question. Now for part 3, we have a function g of x is defined for this. So here we have to find the values of x, for which we have this equation is true. Now, we know f of x is what? F of x is given by minus 2x squared plus 12x minus 3. Now we have to replace that in here. So g of f of x is what? It is 2 times f of x plus 5 have to be what? Let's see. Let's see, what do we get? So 2 times f of x will be, replace f of x, you will have this, plus 5. Now we can replace this back in the main equation, which is this one. So here right now we have gf of x, which is this, that will be, let's expand, you will have minus 4x squared, right? And then we have what? So let's not expand, because we can do something right now. It'll be much easier for us. So we don't expand, you will have 2 minus this plus 12 x minus 3 plus 5, and then here we have plus 1 equal to 0. So now what we can do is we can simplify. So 2 here, that will be the same thing for now, right? And then we can send this value here. So 5 plus 1 is 6. Send this over here, it become minus 6. Now we can divide by 2 everywhere. You will have, this will cancel out, and this will become minus 3. So you will have minus 2x squared plus 12x minus 3 equal to minus 3. Now obviously, you send this over here, they will cancel out. You will have minus 2x squared plus 12x equal to 0. Now, I don't like, it is my personal preference, I don't like to work with minus sign for my coefficient here. I can send everything to this side. So you will have 2x squared minus 12x equal to 0. Now, to find the values of x, let's try to factorize. I can take out the value of 2x. You will have x minus 6 equal to 0. So, here we have 2x equal to 0 and x equal to the value of 6. X can be 0 or x can be this. So these are the two values of x for which this is equal to this is true. That is your question number 5. Let's move on to question number 6. So we have to prove the left hand side is equal to the right hand side. So step by step. So I prefer to begin on the left hand side as always. So let's see what can we do here. So first thing, we can expand the brackets and see what happens. So you will have 1 cos x squared, right? That's the first term. And here we have minus, that will be minus 2 times the first term. And then the other term will be tan x. And then finally, we just have to plus the last term square. So that's the expansion of this one. Now simplify, that will be 1 over cos square x. That will be minus 2 tan x over cos x. And here we have plus tan square x. Now one thing we can realize that is what? Is here we have fraction, fraction, and no fraction. So what can we do here? If you realize, what is tan x? Tan x is simply sin x over cos x. But what is tan square x? It will be sin square x over cos square x. Now just replace back in our main equation. We have 1 over cos square x minus 2 tan x over cos x plus sin square x over cos square x. Either way, that is, oh, sorry about that. That is not together. This is apart, right? Now, something is happening here. Here we have cos square x. Here we have cos square x. But here we have cos x. So we have to make everything become the same. So the LCM is what it is? It is cos square x. So how can you make cos x become cos square x? We have to multiply by cos x. So by doing that, we have to make everyone's base become cos square x. It is just a way to simplify your fractions so you can combine them together. Now, the way I do this is, let me explain, because it could be confusing for some people. For example, let's say if I have minus 2 tan x over cos x. Now, to change this to cos square x, we have to multiply by cos x. But now, so we don't want to change the fraction. We have to multiply the base and the top by the same thing, because we don't want to change the fraction. So by doing that, you will have minus 2 tan x cos x over the value of cos square x. So basically this term will become this, right? So if the base is cos square, that will be cos square. The first is 1 minus 2 tan x and then cos x. And finally here we have the same base already, which is plus sine square x. Okay, so now we can continue. Okay. So now if you observe, what is this value? As we have seen before, tan x is simply sin x over cos x, right? If you take 2, replace this by this 2 sine over cos multiplied by cos. Cos will cancel out, so you will only have minus 2 sine, if that makes sense. So this term will become this. So basically, what do I mean is, it is 1 minus 2 sine x remaining on top plus sine square x. Now for the base, as you can see, in the answer here, we don't need cos, but here we have cos. How can we change that to sine? So pretty easy. So we know that cos square x is equal to 1 minus sine square x. So this becomes 1 minus sine square x. Finally, now we just have to try to factorize the equations. So on top, one by one, let's look at the top value first. What do we have? You will have what? So let me actually do one by one. So let's call this number 1, this number 2, so we don't confuse them by each other. So first one, on top we have sine square x minus 2 sine x plus 1. As you can see, this one is a quadratic equation. We can try to factorize. What do we get? Sine square x is sine x times sine x. 1 is 1 times 1. Now to get minus 2, we have to have minus 1, minus 1. That's the number 1. On top you will have this. Now for the base, as you can see, we have what? We have 1 minus sine square x, right? Now we have to know, what is 1? 1 is 1 square minus sine x square. It is simply the difference of squares. Now we have learned this from Math O level. This gives you a plus b times a minus b. So simply, number 2 should give you what? Comparing, a should be just 1 plus b, and then here we have 1 minus b. Okay, this is the factorization of this term. You will have this. Now what can we do now? So we have to try to cancel one of them. So if you observe, we can try to take out the value of minus 1 outside. For example, let me explain. So if you have this, let me write this down here. So right now we have what? We have sine x minus 1. So we can play with the sign. If you want to play with the sign, you can do that. For example, let's take out the value of minus 1 to see what happens. You will have minus 1, you will have 1 minus sine x, right? The idea is that if you want to put this back into your brackets, you have to get the same value. For example, minus 1 times 1, you get minus 1. Minus 1 times minus sine x, you get sine x. So the idea is that by doing this, it's the same value still, same thing, but we get something different on the inside. Now replace this by this on the equation. Let's see what happens. So, as we have seen, this became minus 1 minus sine x. That was sine x minus 1. This will be 1 plus sine x, and that will be 1 minus sine x. Now, something happened here. This and this are the same, so we can cancel them out. And finally, we can bring this value inside. You will have 1 minus sine x over 1 plus sine x. And this is shown as required for question part 1 right here. Now let's move on to part B of the part 2 of the question. Now you can see here we have hence. Hence means we have to use the previous answer. So we have seen that this has became what? So we know this by part 1. We know that this is 1 minus sine x over 1 plus sine x equal to 1 over 3. So first thing first, we have to cross multiply. You will have 3 minus 3 sine x equal to 1 plus sine x. Simplify, you will have, send this over here, you will have what? So 3 minus 1 is 2. That will be 4 sine x. So sine x will be the value of 2 divided by 4. That should be half. Now as you can see, it is positive. It will be in the first quadrant. and in the second quadrant. This first one is what it is, just the value of x directly, and this will be the value of pi minus x, which is 180 minus x, right? Same thing. Because here we are working with a value of radians, we have to keep in mind to have the answers in radians as well. So because it is positive, we can find the value directly. X will be sine inverse of half. That will be, if you know, sine inverse of half, that should be 30 degrees, which is pi by 6, but also has to be in this quadrant, should be pi minus pi by 6. That should be pi by 6 and the value of 5 pi by 6. This is your values of x, and to check, they need to be between the value of 0 and pi, and these two are between the values of 0 and pi. So that is your question number 6. So here in this question, I realized that I missed something, is that as you can see here, we have 2x and 2x, and initially here we did not have 2x and 2x, so it means that I have to add 2x and 2x here. So basically right now you will have 2x here, 2, 2, and 2, and 2 as well right here. So finally your answer of x will be what? Will be pi by 12 and then 5 pi by 12. So this will be your answer that you need to have. So just be careful. You see, this is a silly mistake that you can make, anyone can make. It is just not being careful. Anyways, let's move on to the next question. Okay, so now let's move on to question number 7. The diagram shows a 3-dimensional shape in which the base OABC and the upper surface DEFG are identical horizontal squares. So these are squares, the base and the top. Okay. Now the shapes we have OAED, so OA, so OAED, and CBFG, so CBFG lie in vertical planes. Okay, as we can see on the diagram. Now the important point is that the point M is the midpoint of AF. So if you were to join A to F, M is the midpoint, which is half the distance. Right. Now moving on. The vectors I and J are parallel to OA and OC respectively. Okay. So OA is what? OA. Okay, as you can see, I and J in this direction, and this is K, will be vertical. Okay, so what else? Now the position vectors of A from the point O. So when you say position vectors means from the point O of A, so from O to A, the value is 8i. So this distance is 8i, right? And from O to D, this will be the value of 3i plus 10k. So OD is this one, my bad. OD is this one. Now, something we can realize here, from O to D, it is 3i plus 10k, but also you can realize that from A to E has to be the same as from B to F, has to be the same as from C to G. It is equal to the same value as OD, if that makes sense, because they are the same height, right? These. So from this to this, from this to this, this to this, and this to this has to be the same value. So we have this, we can derive from that information. Now for part 1 anyways, let's move on to the question. We have to express each of the vectors AM and GM in terms of I, J, and K. So one by one, AM. So whenever you have these kind of questions, please refer back to your main diagram. So let's see what are we trying to find right now. So AM is to move from A to go to M. Now, how can you move from A to go to M? So let's think. We have to use the information given to us is that the point M is the midpoint of AF. So we can first find AF, then we can just do the midpoint to find the point, the value of AM, if that makes sense, right? Okay, so let's first find AF. AF will be moving from A to F. Now, if you observe, A to F will be what? You have to first move from A going to B, and then from B going to F, if that makes sense. Now A to B has to be the same as O to C. So OC is given to you by what? Let's see, do we have the value here? No, because why? Because we're supposed to know the value is because that the base is a square. So if this is 8i, this must be 8j. That makes sense. So this has to be 8j as well. So AB has to be in this direction, 8j. Now BF from B to F, so B to F. So now as you can see, we have derived that from here. BF has to equal to OD. OD is this one. That will be 3i plus 10k. So according to the diagram that we have used, we have realized that AF is given by 3i plus 8j plus 10k. Now finally we know that M is the midpoint of AF, so we can just do AM, we have to divide by 2. That will be 1.5 plus 4j and plus 5k. That is my first part. Now we have to find GM. Again, go back to your diagram. Where's G? G is this point. We have to find GM. So from G, how can you move to M? So let's observe. We can first move from G to F, right? G to F. So GM. How? We can first move from G to F, and then we can do plus FM, right? We have two parts, so G, F, and then FM. So pretty easy. So first thing we realize that GF has to be the same value as 8i because we know this is the same square and square, so this distance is this one, and this is also the same. So that is why it is 8i. Now this part, FM, will be in this direction. So we know that AM was given to you by what? AM from A to M was in this direction. That was given by 3i plus 8j. So AM is not that, so it's the AF. Sorry, AF was given to you by that. So A, let me write down AM. AM was 1.5 high plus 4j and then plus 5k. That is AM. But as you can see, it is in this direction. However, if you want to find MA, it will have to be in the opposite direction. So in the opposite direction, it means that we have to multiply this by minus sign. That will become this value. If that makes sense, right? So same thing here. Because we know that AM and MF are the same, has to be the same value because M is the midpoint. MF is the same as, so we know that. Let me side note. Because of, we know that AM has to be the same as MF. MF is equal to the same value as 1.5i plus 4j plus 5k, if that makes sense. Now, to find the opposite direction, we have to apply minus 1 in front of this value, which is this value, right? Let's see, what do we get? Okay, let's simplify. So for part 2, right now we have GM have to be the value of 8i minus 1.5i minus 4j minus 5k. That will be what? 8 minus 1.5, that should be 6.5 minus 4j minus 5k. So this is your value of AM and GM. As you can see, the only thing you need to use here is the diagram and understanding of what is given to you. Everything you need will be in this question itself. That is for part 1 of the question. Now for part 2, we have to use a scalar product, okay, pretty easy, to find the angle GMA. So pretty easy. If you observe, We know the direction AM and the direction GM, right? So we know this. For example, we know this direction and we know this direction, right? This is A, this is G, and this is M. So we know these two directions. So to find the angle here, we have to use these two directions to find the angle. For example, the formula for scalar product will be what? Will be simply, you can just do AM multiplied by GM is equal to the you have to do the length of those two. So basically, the magnitude of AM multiplied by the magnitude of GM, and then multiplied by cos of the angle in between. Right, so that's the formula we have to use. Now replace AM is what? AM is given to you by 1.5, 4 and 5 from part 1, and GM, same thing from part 1, was given to you by 6.5, minus 4 and minus 5. Right, and this is what? If you observe, the magnitude of AM, we just have to take square root of the values square here. That will be 1.5 square plus 4 square and plus 5 square. Multiply by the square root of GM will be same thing, 6.5 square plus minus 4 square and plus minus 5 square. Finally, we have cos of the angle M. So simplify. So here we just have to multiply and add them together. So basically 1.5 times 6.5 plus 4 times minus 4 plus 5 times minus 5. That will be minus 31.25 is equal to 1.5 square plus 4 square plus 5 square. That will be root of 43.25. Now here we have 6.5 square plus minus 4 square, so 4 square plus 5 square, that should be 83.25 cos of the angle M. So simplify, we have to make this become subject of formula. So send everything else to this side. You will have cos of M will be what? Will be, so we have minus 31.25 divided by root of 43.25 multiplied by root of 83.25. That will give you minus 0.52079. M will be cos inverse of that value. Let's see what do we get. So let's double check if that is the right value. So root of 43.25 multiplied by root of 83.25 will be this. So minus 31.25 divided by answer, yep, will be the same value. So cos inverse, that will be 121.385. But you have to give your answer nearest degree. That will be 121.0 degrees. Because here it is less than 5, so we don't have to add 1 to the value here. It will be just erased. Okay, so your answer will be 121 degrees for the angle GMA. Okay, that is your question number 7. Now let's move on to question number 8. So the third and the fourth terms of a geometric progression. So now you know this is the type of progression we have. Let's write down the formulas we know. So for geometric progression, what do we know? So let me see. We are given a list of formula. Let me see if I have the list or not. So I know that we have u, the first term, so the n term is given to you by what? By a or n minus 1. And the sum of infinity has to be a divided by 1 minus r, where the magnitude of r has to be less than 1. That's something we know. And the sum of the first n term has been given to you by a times 1 minus r power n over 1 minus r. Okay, that is the formulas we have to use in this progression. Now, we know that the third term, so third term is 48, and the fourth term is given to you by 32. So we have to use that information to find the sum to infinity. So one by one, let's form an equation. So here we have the third term, where the value of n is 3, is supposed to give you 48. Replace back in your main equation here, you will have 48 is given to you by a, we don't know, r we don't know, this should be 3 minus 1 is square. That is my first equation. Now for this one, same thing, where n is the value of 4, what happens? That will be 32 is equal to a, we don't know, r we don't know, n is 4 minus 1 is 3. That is my equation number 2. So what can we do here? Very simple. We can try to take equation number 2 divided by equation number 1. It's the same thing as solving simultaneously, but that's another way of just doing this faster. So 2 will be what? 2 is this one. Will be 32 is equal to ar cubed over 1 is 48 ar square. So let me rewrite this down because it can be confusing in this way. This is the same thing as 32 over 48 is equal to ar cubed over ar square. So now we can simplify. As you can see, a cancel out, this will cancel out, only 1 remaining. So basically r has to be 32 divided by 48, that should be 2 over 3. From this, the value of a has to be what? Bring it back to your main equation. A will be 48 divided by r square. Okay, so 48 divided by answer square, that should be 108. Okay, so right now we have the first term, which is 108, and the r term, which is 2 over 3. We can find the sum to infinity by using the formula that we know, it is 1, so a over 1 minus r. A is 108 divided by 1 minus 2 over 3. 1 minus 2 over 3, and then we have 108 divided by answer, that should be 324, sorry, as your answer. That is your sum to infinity of the progression. That is your question 8.8. Now for part B, we have two schemes are proposed for increasing the amount of household waste that is recycled each week. Okay, now scheme A is to increase the amount of waste recycled each month by 0.616 tons. So that is scheme A. So the idea of scheme A is that, let's say, so we have month 1, month 2, month 3, and month 4. For example, it keeps going on until we have, so for each scheme, we have 24 months, so until 24 months, that's the idea. And we have the first month is 2.5. So here we know for the first month we have 2.5, but the idea of scheme A is that we have to increase, it says to increase the amount by this one, so it is increasing by 0.16, increasing by 0.16, increasing by 0.16. As you can see, every time we're increasing by the same amount, this is called the arithmetic progression. Now, we can clearly know that the first term is 2.5 and the common difference is equal to 0.6 because we are increasing by the same amount between every month, every term. Now, let's see what are we trying to find. We are trying to find the total amount of waste that will be recycled over 24 months. So, we're trying to find the sum of the first 24 months. That's the main thing we're trying to find. Now, let me write down the formula for this. As we know, it is given to you as well. The sum of the first n term is half times the value of n. Then that will be 2a plus n minus 1 times d. This will be for the arithmetic progression. That is one of the two kinds of progression you have to know, at least for A level. Now, we just have to find this, where the value of n is 24. Replace, you will have. So let me continue here. So S of 24 has to be half of 24. That'll be 2 times A will be, 2 times this will be 5, plus n minus 1, n is 24 minus 1 is 23, times d, which is 0.16. That will be 12, right? Half of 24 is 12. 5 plus 23 times 0.16. That will be 104.16. So we have to write this down to 3SF if you want to. So 104 tons will be recycled over the 24 months. That is for scheme A. Okay, now let's move on to scheme B. So scheme B is to increase the amount of waste each month by 6% of the amount recycled in the previous month. So just to understand, first thing first, for example, again, we have 1 month, 2, 3, 4, and then up to 24 months. So we begin with 2.5 as given by the question. Now, it is important that we're understanding that for the second month, we are increasing this amount by 6%. We're increasing by 6%. So the way we look at this is the initial amount will always to be considered as 100%. Right? If that makes sense, right? Initially, we always look at this as this is the full amount, this is 100%. Now, when you increase by 6%, the second term becomes 106%. Right? Now, what is 106% of the initial amount? So 106% is this value, 1.06. So this is basically 1.06. So the idea is that we are actually increasing the first term by a multiple of 1.06 every time. So from this to come to here, we have to multiply by 1.06 times this. So once you do that, we have to reset everything again because we don't look at this one anymore. When we go to month 3, we'll look at month 2 as the previous month. So again, now this one is looked at as the 100% because that's the initial amount compared to month 3. As you can see, we only care about the previous month. So if you come to 3, 2 is the previous month, so we forget about this one. So here this is this, increased by 6, it will become what? Same idea, it become 1.06 times this one, which is 1.0625. And same thing happening again. So the main idea is that this will happen. The first term is 2.5 that we know. Second term will be 1.06, 2.5, okay. Third term will be, this time this will be 1.06 square, 2.5, and 1.06 cube, 2.5. As you can see, every term is increased by what? Every term is being increased by multiple of 1.06. 1.06, right? So whenever we have this kind of increase, this is called the common ratio, or 1.06, and this is a geometric progression. As you can see here, whenever it was increased by plus, just plus, add or decrease by equal amounts, it was arithmetic progression. But now when we have multiply, it will become a geometric progression. So the first term we know it is 2.5. The value of R it is 1.06. We're trying to find the sum of the first 24 terms, which is 24 months. Now we just have to write down the formula for this. Let me write this down here. For geometric progression, it is given to you, obviously. So you don't have to worry about this. So will be this. That will be first will be A outside. We have 1 minus N over 1 minus R. Okay, that is the sum of the first n term. Okay, let's write this down now. A is 2.5, as we know. 1 minus R is 1.06. Power n is 24 over 1 minus 1.06. So let's see what do we get. So let's do the inside value first. So 1.06 power 24. This. So 1 minus answer should be this. Divided by 1 minus 1.06. That will be this. Then divide by 2. So 2.5 divided by answer. So I think I made a mistake here. Let's try again. So we have, let's do the top first. So 1 minus 1.06 power 24 times 2.5 divided by 1 minus 1.06. That will give you 127 tons of waste recycled by the end of 24 months. So this is the answer for question 8b. Just understanding what kind of progression we are working with for each case, and then using the corresponding formulas to replace in the values to find the answer. It's pretty simple. You just have to understand what are you working with. Now let's move on to question number 9. The function f is defined by f of x, given by this, between the values of 0 and 2 pi. Okay, so first thing first, state the range of f, so pretty easy. The idea here we have to use is that, so here it is a constant, right? Here it is only a multiple, so what changed here? Only this value will change. Now, you have to know, cos x, it can only be between the values of -1 and 1. And same for sin x, right? For those two, you have to know that this is always between those two, and this helps you to find the max and the minimum value. So, pretty easy. So case number 1, we can say let cos of x to be -1 to find the extreme values. That will be, f of x will be what? Will be 2 minus 3 minus 1. That should be 5. Now, case number 2, cos of x will be the value of 1. F of x will be 2 minus 3 times 1. That should be -1. So as you can see, this translates to f of x is between the values of -1 and 5. So that is your answer for part 1. So everything comes from understanding this. So if you don't know this, no big deal as well. You can always replace the values in the function and see what values you get for f of x. Now for part 2, we have to sketch the graph. Okay, as always, we try to draw a table of values and then the graph. So one by one, we have x here. Here we have the value of y. So we know f of x is given to you by 2 minus 3x, so 3 cos x. In front of this is 1, right? So it is between the values of 0 to 2 pi. Because this is 1, we can begin with a value of 0 and then pi by 2. That will be pi, 3 pi by 4, and then we have 2 pi. Sorry, this is not this is not the right value. So we have to add 2. This is such a mistake here. This is pretty stupid. So we have to add every time pi by 2. So pi plus pi by 2 will be what? That will be 3 pi by 2. So this will be 2 here. Okay. So now we have to find the corresponding values of y. So let's do that. So here we have to use radians. So 2 minus 3 cos of 0. That will be -1. That will be cos of pi over 2. That will be 2. Cos of pi. That will be 5. Cos of 3 pi over 2. 2. And finally 2 pi. Let's check. That will be -1. So first thing first, let's draw your y-axis. You have to use a ruler, of course. Don't freehand this. And then you have to draw your x-axis. So y. The max value is 5. As you can see, let's put 5 here, for example. And the mean value is just -1. Let's say it's right here. Now let's write down those values on your x-axis. This is 0. Let's say here we have pi by 2. Here we have pi. Here we have 3 pi by 2. And finally, we have 2 pi. So let's find the points. So here we have, first one is -1. That will be here. Then we have 2. For example, 2 will be somewhere, let's say over here, right? Let's say over here. Then we have 5, this will be 5, that will be 2, and minus 1. Okay, so now we just have to connect them with a smooth curve. So let's try your best. So it's to be in this direction. This has to be something like this. Okay, as you can see, this will be your f of x or your y equal to f of x. Okay, this is your curve sketch. As you can see, it is only a sketch. Sketch means it doesn't need to be exactly the same that it needs to be. We just need to somewhat show the shape that we understand what are the points we are trying to find and how did you find the values. And this is your part 2 of the question number 9. Now for part 3, so here we have the function g of x is defined by this, okay, between the values of 0 and p, where p is a constant. Okay, now part 3, state the largest value of p for which g of x, so g has an inverse. Now if you realize, f of x was also equal to 2 minus 3 cos x, right? From part 2, it's the same curve. Now the idea is that we have to know when does our curve has an inverse. So for example, here if you look at this shape, let me redraw this here. So the shape was somewhat like this, right? Like this, like this. Now the idea is that right now it does not have an inverse. Why? Because if you were to draw a horizontal line, it will cut the curve at 2 points. So by having that, it does not have an inverse. So basically we have 2 values for each value of y. So it is not a one-to-one function. For one value of y, we have 2 values of x, so it would not be a one-to-one function. And because of that, it does not have an inverse. That's the idea right now. Now, we can make this become a one-to-one function. Well, how? If you observe, what can we do is, we can just define the domain again. For example, I can stop right here. I can draw this, and when I become the maximum, I can stop my graph right here by taking the value of p right here. This is 0 obviously, as you can see, begin from 0, and we can stop the value of p right here before it comes down so that it doesn't have 2 values of x. So now if you draw this line, we have only one value, one value, one value. So this is what we mean by one-to-one function. So we want to eliminate the other side so we don't have 2 values for each value of y. Now, what is this value of p? Pretty easy. If you observe your graph that you just did, the max value of p was 5. It was at the value of x equal to this. So this is the value of p. P has to be the constant pi. Okay, that is part 3 of the question. Now for part 4, for this value of p, we have to find g inverse of x. So let's do that. So g of x is given by 2 minus 3 cos x. So first step is to let y equal to g of x. Then we have to make x become the subject of formula. You will have y minus 2 is minus 3 cos x. So 3 cos x have to be 2 minus y. So finally, cos x has to be 2 minus y over 3. And then x becomes subject by cos inverse of 2 minus y over 3. But of course, g inverse is in terms of x. We have to change the y to x. That will be 2 minus x over 3. Okay, and that is your question number 9. Now let's move on to question number 10. A curve for which d2y by dx2 is given by this. It has a stationary point at this. So the curve have a stationary point at this value. Now question part 1 is to what? Is to find the equation of the curve. So we're trying to find the value of what? Curve is y. We're trying to find y. Now, you have to understand, to find y, we have to first differentiate dy by dx. But now, to find dy by dx, we have, so it is integrate, not differentiate. It is integrate d2y by dx2. So that's the two things you must know as well to be able to find the value of y. Y is the equation of your curve. Now, step by step, because here we have d2y dx2, we have to begin here. So first thing, we have to find dy by dx. So let's do that. That will be what? So that will be integration of 2x minus 5 with respect to x. That will be 2x squared over 2, right? And then that will be minus 5x plus c. This is the constant of integration. Okay, so right now we know that dy by dx is equal to this value. So this value is cancel out. That will be x squared minus 5x plus c. Now, we have to find this value of c. How can we find this? So we have to use this information. So we know that at stationary points, what happens? So we know that this is when dy by dx equal to 0, right? So equate that to 0. So you will have x squared minus 5x plus c is 0. So you're supposed to get the point, what? The point 3 and 6. So we have to use these 2 points to find that value. So this is the x value, this is the y value. So here we have only x, so replace x in here. You will have 9 minus 5 times 3 plus c equal to 0. So 9 minus 15 plus c is 0. C has to be, this is what? This is minus 6, send this over here, becomes 6. So here we have dy by dx is equal to x squared minus 5x plus 6, which was pretty obvious, should be this one, obviously. I don't know why I didn't see that, but okay, no big deal. That is your dy by dx. Now from this, we have to find the value of y. Y is equal to the equation of curve, integration of dy by dx. So it is this one. That will give you x power 3 over 3 minus 5x squared over 2 plus 6x. Now plus d, because we have used c already, let's use d now. This is y. Now we have to use the passing point, 3, 6. That will be x and y. We place back in your main equation to see what you have. So this will be 6. That will be 27 over 3 minus 5 times 9 over 2 plus 6 times 3 plus d. So let's see. That will be 9. So 6 minus 9 plus, that will be 2.5 times 9 minus 18 has to be the value of d. So let's see whether we get d. 6 minus 9 plus 2.5 times 9 minus 18. That will be 1.5. Okay, so that will be your answer right here. Y is equal to 1 over 3 x power 3 minus 5 over 2 x squared plus 6x plus 1.5. So this is your equation of your curve. That is for part 1 of the question. Now let's move on to part 2. Here we have to find the x value of the other stationary point on the curve. So pretty easy. To find the stationary point, what do we know? We have to know dy by dx. This happens when this is equal to 0. So as we have seen, dy by dx was equal to the value of x squared minus 5x plus 6. So equate that to 0. Let's see what happens. That will be x times x, and this will be 3 times 2. To get minus 5 has to be minus 3 minus 2. That will be x equal to 3. x equal to 2, right? So this one we know already. We need this one as your answer. X equal to 2. That is part 2. Now for part 3, determine the nature of each of the points. So we have 2 points, as you can see. The first point is 3, 6. And this point is the value of x is 2. But we don't need the y, because we just need to find the nature of that point. Okay, but if you want to find y, no big deal. Let's find y. What is the y value of x equal to 2? Replace back in your main equation. Let's see what you have. 1 over 3, 2 power 3 will be 8, minus 2.5 times 4, plus 12, plus 1.5. That should be something like this. That's the y value, which is 6, 1 over 6. But we don't need that anyways. We just need to find the nature of those points. To find the nature, we have to look at d2y and dx2. That was given to us by the question as 2x minus 5. So when x equal to the value of 2, this was given to you what? d2y was 4 minus 5 equal to minus 1. So you can write the conclusion is that this point, 2y for that point, it is a maximum point because it is negative. It is negative, because of that it is a maximum point. Now obviously when you have a maximum point, the other one has to be a minimum point, just logically. But either way, you can just show this as well. d2y by dx2 have to be 2 times x will be 6 minus 5 has to be 1, which is more than 0. So because of that, we conclude this point 3, 6 is a minimum point. Okay, so that is your question for question number 10. Okay, now let's move on to question number 11. The diagram shows part of the curve y equal to this and a point P lying on the curve. Okay, now let's see how can we simplify this. For example, y can be 3, 1 plus 4x power minus half. If that makes sense, we can write this in this way as well. Okay, now we have a point P, as you can see. The point P is 2, 1, which means this is 2 and this is 1, right? Now the normal to the curve at P, so the normal to the curve at P, which is this one, intersect the x-axis at Q. So the normal to the curve at P, so this one is Q. So this is not the point, this is not Q, so this is 2, but this is Q. We're trying to find Q here. That's the idea. So step by step, how are we supposed to find Q, right? The x value of Q is this. So first thing first, as we can see here, Q is obtained by the intersection between this line and the x-axis. Now, what is this line? This line is simply the normal to the curve at the point P. Now, to find the equation of a straight line, what do we need? We need the gradient of that line. So first, let's find the gradient of the normal. Now, to find the gradient of the normal, we must have to have the gradient of the tangent. Now this is simply equal to dy by dx at the point of x equal to passing point is 2. That's the concept we have to use to find the gradient of the normal. So let's find dy by dx. Let's do that. So right now we have y is this. So dy by dx will be what? First thing first, we can just write this down. This is a multiple, okay, where you don't touch it. Now we have to multiply by the power. You have this. Then the inside will be the same value for now. And then we have to minus 1 to this. It will be minus 3 over 2. Then minus d by dx of the value inside. That will be 4. Simplify. That will be 2. And that will be minus 6. 1 plus 4x minus 3 over 2. Now let's see what happens. So we need to find this value at x equal to 2. So we place this in here. You will have minus 6, 1 plus 8 minus 3 over 2. So let's find the value. That will be 9 power minus 1.5. That will be this. So let's see again. Minus 6 over 9, 3 over 2. so let's see what do we get. So we get the value of minus 6 over the value of, so 9 power 3 over 2. That will be exact value of 27. So we can use the exact value just to make our life easier. So divide by 3, you will have minus 2 over 9, right? Okay, so this is the gradient of the tangent. That's the first step. Now, we don't care about this, we care about the gradient of the normal. So going back again, we have to use the concept that we know is that if you take the gradient of the normal, multiply by the gradient of the tangent, it is supposed to give you minus 1. So that's something we have to know when dealing with these kind of questions. So from this, we can find the gradient of normal. That will be multiplied by minus 2 over 9, that should be minus 1. So finally, from this, we conclude that should be, the value cancel out, that will be 9 over 2, which is 4.5 if you want to. 4.5 will be the gradient of the normal. Now we know the gradient, we know the passing point is 2, 1. This is x, y. We can find the equation pretty easily. So that will be y minus the corresponding value over x minus 2 has to be 9 over 2. Cross multiply, you will have what? 2y minus 2 has to be 9x minus 18, right? And then we have 2y has to be 9x minus 18 plus 2. So 2y has to be 9x minus 16. That is my equation of the normal. Now, we have to use this because we know that the point Q is where the normal meets the x-axis. So pretty easy. From here, at the x-axis, what do we know? We know that the value of y has to be 0 at the x-axis. Replace, you will have 0 equal to 9x minus 16. So 9x is equal to 16, and x has to be 16 over 9. This is shown as required. So there you go. The point Q is given to you by 16 over 9 and the value of 0 for the y coordinate. That is part 1 of the question. Now for part 2, we have to find the area of that region. So as you can see, we don't need to find the exact area, so we can provide the answer in decimal as well. Now what can we do right now is we can break this down into 2 parts. So one thing is we can first find the whole area between 0 and 2, because right now we have 2 areas we can look at. For example, if you can observe this one, for example, let me use a different color here. So here we have what? We have the graph y and x, right? X and y. So the graph looks something like this for now. This is the value of p. So let's not look at this line for now. So p, that's the point. P at 2, this is 0. So we can first find the whole area. Let's call this area of number 1. So let's find that first. So now, how can you find area in the graph? You can use integration. Very simple. So we know y is given to us by what? By the equation of 3, 1 plus 4x power minus half. So area of number 1, which is the whole area, everything, whole area, is given by integration of y by dx between the limits of 2 and 0. As you can see right here, right? This is the point 2, 1, 2 is here, 2 and 0, the limits of these two. Now let's see what happens. So here we have 2, 0, y is 3, 1 plus 4x minus half dx. So let's see what do we get. That will give me 3 is only a multiple. Can write down the same thing. First thing first, we have to increase the power by 1. So minus half plus 1 will be half. Then divide by the power and divide by d by dx of the value inside. That will be the value of 4. So let's simplify first. That will become what? This will be 2. That will be 3 over 2. 1 plus 4x power half and limits of 2, 0. So simplify 1 by 1. That will become, We can take out this value if you want to, and then inside you will have 2 replace here. That will be 1 plus 8 power half minus 1 plus 0 power half. That was 3 over 2. Now 9 power half will be 3 minus 1, right? That should be 3 over 2 times 2. That should be 3. So area number 1, the whole area is 3 units square. Now, as you can see here, we don't care about this one. Now, if you observe, this line normal is a straight line, right? And the value q here is what? Q, the x value of q is 16 over 9. 16 over 9. This is my x-axis, right? And then p here, because you see p here is here. Let's say p is here. If you draw this here, p, the value here is 2. This is also a vertical line, right? Vertical line because that's the x value of p. And this is a straight line because that's a normal. As we know, it is a straight line. But this is horizontal and vertical. This is going to be 90 degrees. And as you can see, this height here is simply 1 because of the x value of the point P. So the y value of point P is 1 here. This is 1. And what is this distance? Let's find this value. 2 minus 16 over 9. That should be 2 over 9. So this is 2 over 9. So basically here is that we don't need this area number 2. So how can you find number 2? If you observe, it is a right angle triangle. And how do you find area of that? It is simply half. So half times base. Base is 2 over 9. And times height. Height is 1. So you have 1 over 9 because this will cancel out. That'll be 1 over 9 units. This is area number 2. So the main idea is that to find the area of that region is the shaded area is number 1 minus number 2. 1 is 3 minus 1 over 9 should be what? Let's see. That will be 2, 8 over 9 units square. Okay, this is your answer for question number 7. No, sorry, number 11, not 7. That's the last question of this paper. So I hope that was somewhat helpful. As always, thank you for watching. I will see you soon.